and welcome back to my channel. So with this week's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to cast on with knitting. I'll be showing you two ways, the knit stitch cast on and the long tail cast on. Now, if you're new to my channel, I do bi-weekly YouTube tutorials for knitting and crochet, and I also give any craft tips, tricks, and techniques that I've learned along the way to help you out as a beginner crafter. So yeah, there's not really much more to say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can follow along and learn how to knit and crochet with me. And let's get into it. Okay, so first let's go over the two cast-ons I'm showing you today. One being the long tail cast on, the other being the knit stitch cast on. I'll be doing them in the two different colors just so as you know which is which. So the main difference between the knit stitch cast on and the long tail cast on is the fact that the long tail cast on has a lot more of a stretch to it. So for, let's say, the necks of sweaters or the tops of socks, it is a stretchier cast on, so it will give you more room to fit around your wrist, your ankle, your head, whatever. The knit stitch cast on isn't a tight cast on, but it is a lot tighter than the long tail, depending on how you make it. So, without anything else, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to show you first the long tail cast on. I'll just take it off. Because the long tail cast on, you only need the one needle when you're making it. So what we will do, let's say we want to cast on 10 stitches. The tail of our yarn, we will wrap it around our needle or needles. Sometimes people do use 2 needles. Wrap it around 10 times. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we'll take it off here. And then here is where you would make your slip knot. Now, I don't tend to make slip knot, I just leave it like that, but it's getting a little caught. There we go. So that is how we will do the slip knot. Now, I am looking through my camera, so it is a little bit harder for me to see in terms of perspective. Let me just tighten it up. Alright, so now we're ready to cast on. There's 2 ways that you can do this cast on. One, you will hold the tail in your left hand if you're right-handed, or vice versa. And whatever way you feel comfortable with being able to wrap the yarn around, you'll hold that in the right arm, the right hand. Now, I always just wrap it over the one finger and kind of hold with here. So that's the way I tend to hold my knitting, my yarn while I'm knitting. So it's the same when I cast on. Right, so what we're going to do is, with the tail end, and it doesn't matter which of the 2 ways you do it, we're going to turn it over so there's like a little ring with an X over these 2. Okay, so out straight, I'll do further down. We're going to turn it over. Basically make a loop. Okay, so we're going to turn it over. We're going to put that loop onto the needle. We're going to take the yarn that's in the right hand, wrap it around the needle, put this loop back over, and pull. Okay, let's do that again. So wrap this one around into a little circle, into a little ring with an X, as I always like to look at it. My X didn't give me as nice a ring as that. In and on the needle, with the yarn in the right hand, wrap it around, come back off, and tighten. Okay, I'll do this one more time and then I'll show you the other way of doing the long tail cast on. The way that is a lot more shown. This is just my little hack to it because it gets them done a bit quicker. So into a ring with necks, around the needle with the yarn in the right hand. Take this ring back off the needle and tighten. Okay, so we've done 4 stitches there. Now I'll show you the other way of doing it. You're going to grab in your left hand both strands of yarn, both the tail end and the working end. Your thumb and your first finger are going to go in the middle and they're going to stretch out. Okay? You're going to then twist them backwards. So it's kind of like a little slingshot. I think it's actually also called a slingshot method. Okay, and what we do here is same again. Tail end on this side, working end is on this side. Turn it into a ring. Working yarn around. And tighten. Into the ring. Working end around. And tighten. Into the ring, working end around, and tighten. Okay, perfect. And that's how you cast on with the tail method. We've done 8 stitches, so I'll just do 2 more with both methods. Into the ring, round, and tighten. And then the other method, the one that I tend to use because it's a bit quicker, wrap it around here, working yarn from right hand over, and back through, and tighten. Okay, so we've cast on our first 10 stitches. Now I will show you how to do the knit stitch cast on. So, give me 2 seconds and I'll be back to you. Okay, so we're doing the exact same things we did with the long tail cast on. We are just making stitches to start our knitting. It's the same with any cast on. So what we're going to do first, instead of pulling a long tail like you do with the long tail cast on, because you will be using obviously the tail as well, what we will be doing first, I'm just going to move up a little bit because there's some knots in this wool. We'll make our slip knot. So what I do, you can either do it like this, where you make a little ring or a circle and pull the yarn through with the needle or your finger. So there's your slip knot. Or you can do it like this. From the tail end, with the working yarn of course, wrap the yarn around your finger twice. Pull the end over the second loop really, and the second loop back over the first. And tighten. So that's 2 ways to do your slip knot. Also, when you are learning to crochet, you will need to know a slip knot as well. So, I guess kind of a tip for crochet as well. So let me just tighten this up. Now here's where we differ from the long tail cast on. Okay, so what we're going to do instead, we're basically learning how to knit by doing the cast on row. We'll put our second needle in through our stitch. We'll wrap the working yarn around the second needle, pull it back through. Now instead of doing the knit stitch here, because this is basically the knit stitch, instead of doing the knit stitch here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this second loop and put it over onto this needle. Now we could take our needle out here again, but there's no real need when we're going to be making more. So let me just push this back up. I haven't worked with these big plastic needles in a long time, that's why I'm kind of fidgety. So around the left hand needle with the working yarn, or the right hand needle, sorry. And there's another stitch. Round, through, pull up, put it over here, and there's another stitch. So do one or two more slow ones for you. Okay, so let me do one or two slow ones. We already have 5 cast on. So into the stitch. Oops. I have not worked with these big needles in a long time. In with these stitch. Around the right hand needle only. Back through. Take the loop off to the right hand needle. You don't need to tighten by too much, but do tighten it a little bit. In. Around the right hand needle with the working yarn. Back through. Take the loop off. Now let me speed those up and show you what it looks like when you get used to it. That's if the camera will even stay focused. Yeah. Or if I can even do it with these big needles. Okay. So that is how we will be doing the knit stitch cast on. Now I tend to only use the long tail cast on, but this knit stitch cast on is the first one I learned. And it is also good to know too when you are starting off. There is more, such as the cable stitch cast on, or as I call it, the thumb cast on, where you are literally wrapping the yarn in a loop. It is a lot less secure of a cast on. In terms of when you're knitting the first row, it'll look a lot messier, I find, so that's why I don't do it. But yeah, so that is how to cast on with both the long tail cast on and the knit stitch cast on. Come back for the next tutorial, which will be Saturday in 2 weeks, where we will be learning the foundations of crochet. Alright, so now you know how to do knit stitch cast on and the long tail cast on. Make sure you come back here the next tutorial week, which is Saturday in 2 weeks, for the crochet tutorial with the foundations of crochet. If you would like any specific stitch technique or pattern technique shown as a tutorial, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like and subscribe to follow along and learn how to knit, crochet and more with me. And follow my socials to be kept up to date with my business, with my new patterns for beginners, with my new products, with just my socials in general, if you would like to. So I will see you next time, and remember, happy crafting!